Hello everyone, actually hello to all the A-Day classes. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to answer all of those questions that you asked. I have a very little house, but I do have a big backyard, so it's hard to do something like this in the house because there's always somebody right next to me. So I'm out here, it's kind of cold outside, excuse the hood, and I'm going to do this just like if we were in class. I printed off all the questions that you asked, and I'm going to go right through them without looking at them. So here we go. If you were doing the capstone project, what problem would you solve? Actually, at least once or twice, sometimes 3 times a year, I'll do my capstone project along with the students. So I've done a bunch of different things, but if I was doing something right now, it actually would solve a problem that I just had. Right now the camera is sitting on a tripod. You know how a tripod camera has the 3 legs, and the ground that I'm on is very uneven. As you can probably tell behind me, I'm sitting on a hill, plus it's not a level hill. I would want to create something in which I could unlock all the legs of the tripod, hold it up, all the legs go down to the ground, and I press a button like where I'm holding it to lock them all in. Because otherwise it's a pain in the neck to do each leg individually. So I wish there was one button up by the camera where I can press it and they all lock and the camera is nice and level. Question number 2. What inspired you to be a capstone teacher? I was a social studies teacher before this forever, and in that class we built and created all sorts of different things. And so capstone is kind of that same type of class where you get to build and build and build. Unfortunately, not this trimester, but I'll see you back again next year and we'll do a lot of building. And the difference is there's not the content that comes along with it. So you can build things that you choose. Nobody's telling you what the topic is. When you're in class, you're building all sorts of crazy things, and there's no real homework attached to it. So you don't have to worry about going home and studying for a test. And so I thought that was the perfect sort of class for me, a class where you get to come in and build, create all these things without someone telling you, here's exactly what you have to do. What was my weirdest dream? It's funny because just this morning I woke up and I was like, wow, that was a weird dream. I don't remember what it was. I know the dream that I always had when I was a small kid is I was in bed and I would roll out of bed and I would be falling and falling and falling until I saw Godzilla. And then when I saw Godzilla, I'd wake up. What brand of dog food does your dog eat? Actually, my dog eats a lot of raw food, so like we'll just throw her a chicken leg or a chicken thigh. She eats a lot of all natural sorts of foods, and so when I do buy dog food, I'm not really stuck on any one brand. It's more like just a supplement for all of her vitamins and minerals. I can't even remember what the brand is that we have right now. Interesting question though. How many animals do you have and what are they? Right now, we don't actually have many. We raise pigs, but we only raise them, we don't breed them. And we have goats, which I don't know where they are. And also, we've had a few goats just disappear a couple weeks ago. I have no idea where they went. They just like vanished. I can't figure it out. They weren't wandering the neighborhood. They weren't picked up by the state troopers. They just disappeared somewhere into the wilderness. So we have goats. I have a dog, I have lots of fish. If you name it, it has lived on this property, from turkeys to chickens to cows to sheep to everything. What's your favorite kind of wild animal? I'd have to say a grizzly bear. Grizzly bears are really cool. Would you rather be stuck in the ocean or stuck in the jungle? Depends what you mean by stuck, like living, like on a boat in the ocean. Jungles are really cool. I've been to a rainforest before, but I hate the heat. So if it was really like a hot, depressing, humidity sort of time in the jungle, I don't think I'd want that. Also full of like bugs. I don't mind like bugs, but I hate like mosquitoes, like bugs that bite you. That's so annoying. So I don't know, but I don't know if I'd want to be stuck in the ocean either. I don't know. I'm going to leave that up as I don't know. Good question though. There's always somebody who tries to ask a really wise answer or a really crude question rather. Someone who asks a crude question thinking that it would get to me, but I pretty much have done everything. So for the person who wrote, have you ever fallen face first into animal poop? Or has an animal come into your house and pooped on the floor? Yes, to both. I have worked on a dairy farm, and I can think of quite a few times in which I have landed face first and just been full of cow manure. I have also had goats come into the house and poop on the floor. Not like voluntarily, but like if we were taking care of a baby that was sick and needed some attention. Or I have to admit, every once in a while I will come home and I will find a goat in the house that my daughters are playing with, like baby goats. If you could live anywhere, where would it be? I would go to Montana or Wyoming, somewhere near the edge of the mountains so that you can kind of live low and play high. How are we going to show our project to you when it's done? We're going to kind of figure that out as we go. And then this person is referring to the capstone project. I think I'm going to offer up 3 different things. One is you can just send me a video of you sharing it. 2 is you can just send some pictures. Or 3, I'm going to set up some Google Meets, and then you can just come on live and share it, and we can go back and forth, and done. Where do you get kiva planks? If you're referring to the video that I showed, the kiva planks are straight from the Kiva Plank Company, from Mr. Kiva Plank himself, who created and sells them. So order them straight from him. If you can do anything right now, what would it be? Wait, if you could do anything right now, what would it be? Would you stay in capstone or would you do another thing? I would absolutely do another thing. If I could just like snap my fingers and go and do anything, I would walk away from this spot right here. I would hike the entire Appalachian Trail and do a through hike of the whole thing. It's a trail that goes from Georgia to Maine, and that is what I would do. So hopefully when I retire, I'm going to actually just leave on my last day of school with my backpack and go right to that trail and hike the whole thing. What is your favorite food or drink? I am such a weirdo. I don't really like even have a favorite food. I guess if I had to only pick one thing, it would be chocolate chip cookies, although I know I couldn't live on those for very long. It would eventually get to me. But if I was only going to eat like one single item, I would take a nice chocolate chip cookie. No nuts. What's one thing that you, oh man, what's one thing that you don't like about the school system? I don't know who wrote this and whether you're writing this to set me up because you know about my true feelings or whether this is a 6th grader who doesn't know me at all. And because this is a public video, if this was in class, I might go through some things with you. But since this is a public video that anybody can view, I'm going to keep it really simple. One of the things I hate about it is that I hate it that kids have to ask permission to pee. There you go. I think it's kind of silly that it's such a basic thing that you have to ask permission to do that. When I was a social studies teacher at one point, it got to the point where I was like, stop asking me. Just tell me. You know, if you got to pee, go pee. Just let me know where you're going to be, and that's it. So asking for permission to do basic human needs is kind of crazy. From asking to pee to being told exactly when you have to eat and how long and, you know, all those sorts of things. So I have a lot more, but let's just keep it simple. What's your favorite hobby? Doing anything outside. I would prefer to actually be filming outside than filming inside. I love backpacking and hiking and camping, and I have a huge garden. Maybe I'll do a video in the garden someday. Are we still doing a capstone project? That's a funny question, because if you got all the way to the bottom of the list to answer this question, then you would have seen all the things above this in which it gave all directions for the capstone project. So the answer is yes, and all the directions are laid out. If you would want to be a celebrity, which one would you want to be? I would want to be someone that's a part of a really popular band in which the band is really popular, but the individual members are not necessarily popular, so that it would still be part of that, you know, pizzazz, but I'd still maybe be able to go to the grocery store unnoticed unless it was by true fans. Have you ever had a problem that a student solved? Yes. When we first moved into the capstone room, we had these donated chairs, and every time somebody would sit on them, they would rip their pants because there was like this snaggy metal piece. And so some kid was able to design a piece that fit into the hole that kind of covered that little piece that snagged on everyone's clothing, and they're still on the chairs today, 4 years later. How many different stories have you read both the book and seen the movie, and what were they? Believe it or not, I can't even think of one. And one of the reasons for that is because I almost exclusively read nonfiction, and not like history books, but like I love the stories of like, you know, the person going undercover and infiltrating some group and bringing them down. Or I love any kind of like true adventure story where somebody decides to go and scale, you know, the tallest mountain or go to the deepest part of the jungle. So I read a lot of those sort of nonfiction ones, which if I can think of one that has been turned into the movie, I think it's called Into the Wild by John Krakauer. It's a story, it was originally a book about a guy who went out into the wild in Alaska, and they made that into a movie. I think that's called Into the Wild. What was your longest plank? I'm assuming you're asking that because you saw the video. That video was the first time I've ever planked in my life. It's the only plank I've ever done in my life. It's the longest I've ever tried. So however long that was, a little less than a minute. And because that was all I needed to beat Gurga, I didn't try going anymore. All right. Why do we have capstone? You have capstone because, and I know this video is getting long, so I'm going to kind of try to make this short. Colleges years ago realized that kids were just studying, getting good grades, graduating, and not being able to do anything with their knowledge that they had. And so they started implementing different courses in which you weren't learning something new, but you're using everything that you learned and putting it together in some kind of project to solve a problem. And so high school started that, and then middle school. And so the idea behind capstone is you're not just coming in and memorizing information and then regurgitating it on a memorized test, but you're actually doing and building and thinking, and there's so much room for freedom and independent thought, and you're not being told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, that you have to make a lot of those decisions on your own. And you know, it's kind of the way that maybe school should be. And so it's one course within your schedule in which, you know, when you walk into the room, you have that ability to make decisions on your own and to build things that you love and can dream of, and to do things that you maybe previously thought were impossible. People are trying to get me in trouble here. What's one thing you don't like about this school, and why? I'm going to do the easy one for me, and that is the size of the capstone classes. When I originally got hired for the job, I was told the capstone classes would be like half the size, more than half the size that they are right now. So it's really hard having classes of 20, 30 kids and having them only once every 3 to 5 days and actually getting to know anybody, especially when I have every single student in the school and I only see it for 20 days a year, and then for some of you it could be a year and a half later when I see you again. So if there's one thing I don't like, it's that schedule and the way that those classes are designed. Can I see your goat? No. What's your preferred brand of shoes? My preferred brand of shoes are called Ultras, A-L-T-R-A. They are called a zero-drop shoe, which means there's no heel. Heels are evil. And if you look them up, they are the shoe of choice of any kind of ultra runner. So that's people who do trail runs that are more than marathon in length. So if you're running through the mountains in a race that's, say, 30, 50, 100 miles, you're going to see a lot of those people wearing ultra shoes. And the last question, what would happen if the moon disappeared? That's a great question. Well, the first thing is the tides would tend to not be as extreme. We would still have them, but they wouldn't be as extreme. I guess the second thing that would get messed up is the amount of time that the Earth takes to go around in a day. That would become very short, and also I think it would mess up our seasons as well. I don't know what that would do to our seasons, but so it would mess up our seasons. It would mess up the amount of time we have every day. It might shorten it to like 7 hours a day, and our tides would be messed up. I don't know what messing up tides would do to the overall impact of the Earth. But all right, there you go. So those are the questions I got submitted to me. Hope you heard yours. And if you have any other sort of questions on anything, please leave them in the Google Classroom and I will try to get to them. All right, A-Day, 6th graders, not exactly the way I wanted to meet, but nice meeting you at least through this way here. Bye-bye.